in that happy mode. Today's conversation is one that will resonate deeply with many of us. The focus is on Black consciousness and mental health, exploring how we can navigate identity, awareness, and emotional well-being in this very complex world, of course. Joining me today is someone who brings both professional expertise and lived experience. Hathor-Ra Bree. Forget about the Bree, my people. It's AKA Miss Phoenix.
Yeah.
A dedicated mental health coach who helps individuals move through healing, develop self-awareness, and reclaim their personal power. We'll unpack questions like, what's the difference between simulating a mind and truly having one? What does consciousness means in the context of mental health? And how does Black consciousness influence the way we see ourselves and support each other's mentally and emotionally? Welcome back to the show called One Step. Let's talk about the journey. My name is Joel Bennett. Miss Phoenix.
Yes, sir.
I love that name, by the way.
Thank you.
How are you?
I am great. I am very calm. I've been taking care of myself.
When she came on the show just now, I was complimenting her, because we like to share each other's business, right? I was complimenting her on her very colorful dress code.
Yeah, man.
And she is looking absolutely stunning. But what makes things even more interesting is the fact that she blends in with the environment.
Not planned, but so at the energy thing, right? It's the energy. Yeah.
And I love that. I absolutely love that. I want to testify a little bit here before we get into the show. When I first met this very beautiful woman over here, and we had our first conversation on the phone, my confidence went from here to here, just because of the wisdom she have and the encouragement and a whole bunch of other things that I'm going to allow you guys to judge for yourself. So are you ready? You want to introduce yourself, Miss Phoenix, before we get into it so my audience can know who you are?
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you so much for the warm welcome and the care. Some of you may not see all aspects, but you could feel that there's care and every detail is looked at and measured, and what are the people going to get? What are they going to feel? So I honor that. So I think we're aligned in that way.
Thank you.
So thank you for the opportunity. My name is Miss Phoenix. Really and truly, I started my journey in social and health services for about 24 years ago. So through all of that, I got from corrections to, group homes, what have you. I've landed in the mental health world. And in the mental health world, I've been able to specialize in decolonizing mental health for Black bodies. And that's a part of my own personal journey, is healing through PTSD. So my childhood stuff started to come up, and I'm like, I'm a mom, I need to fix that. Yeah. So I did my own journey. So I was my own lab rat for a bit. And then through that, I've been able to learn different modalities. I've dived deep into spirituality and did certain rites of passages and certain ceremonies. So some people would say I'm a healer, things like that, or energy worker. But I guess I will identify, because that's my personal journey. Yes. I had to heal my own post-trauma and how that showed up at work, how it showed up in my mothering and my parenting and in my partnerships, intimate spaces. So that's where I'm at now, is how can the I be a we?
Yes.
And so we and us, and how can we shift at whatever level? So I've worked with people with schizophrenia, depression, bipolar, what have you, and I've seen the shift. So I know it's possible. So how can I share that knowledge, that wisdom? So I'm in the spiritual healing space, and that's kind of where I'm at.
I did a little research prior to having you on the show. A whole bunch of research. And what I discovered, I want to find out if this is coincidence.
Okay.
Your name, Hathor-Ra.
Yes.
Or Hathor-Ra. Did you know that it's Egyptian?
Absolutely.
Sun god. Some mother of nations or something to that extent.
Okay.
So your care for mental health is also a representation of your name too as well.
Yeah, and what's so interesting is when you're going through like an indigenous or African naming ceremony, the name is given to you by your nature. Your name is your nature. So I didn't know what my name was until the third or the second day into, it's like a 3-4 day process. And it was so fitting. And Hathor-Ra is the actual Kemetic Egyptian name. And the Greek, they renamed it, of course, they repackage our stuff, is Hathor. And then Ra is the sun god. And so I was like, oh my gosh, this is me. And, you know, she's a goddess of festival. I'm in love for party and them something that. So I was like, so it was quite interesting that my life took a turn. And in this process, I got something that matched my nature. So good research.
To me, it's like a preordained situation speaking to who you are created to be.
1000%.
When time unfolds itself, that is. Because most of us discover ourselves later on in life. It's almost never really immediate. And I'm kind of discovering that for myself, but we'll stick up in there because the show today is about this wonderful woman here and the knowledge she has to offer. So let's get into it.
Yes, sir.
Let's start with the concept of Black consciousness. How would you define it? And why is it important for mental well-being?
So there's different levels. I'm going to go a little bit science and then I'll go. So when we look at the science of melanin, melanin is a chemical that runs through everybody's body. The difference is the amount of melanin, and that shows in the pigment. The darker the pigment, the more melanin. That chemical melanin carries an energy of frequency. And that energy frequency carries a consciousness. So when we look at the chemicals of depression, right? Lower serotonin, higher, whatever, or the chemicals that create cancer, these chemicals, they have a manifestation in a way a person acts and thinks and behaves and all that stuff, right? So when we look at melanin, melanin carries a consciousness, and that consciousness is what modern day times will call decolonized or indigenous. It's about the we and the us. It's about a level of understanding of interconnectedness with nature and people. There's no separatism. They also know whatever you do now affects the future and the past, which we could probably get into. So I would say Black consciousness is understanding not only who you are, but who you are on an atomic level, on a chemical level. So that's kind of the metaphysical science part of Black consciousness. Now, in terms of character and behavior and personality, I would say Black consciousness is a decolonized way of thinking. So it's about the we and the us. So there's a principle called Ubuntu. So Ubuntu means I am because we are, or I am because you are, however you want to say it. But that goes deeper. That means not only if Joel is not well, I'm not well. But if you're not well, the tree outside is not well. And if the tree in the river is polluted and not well, then we're not good, right? So having a Black consciousness or African-centered consciousness is understanding that we're all interconnected. There's no I and me. Even that's the colonial way, that's the people who want to, divide and conquer. But Black consciousness is understanding that you are connected to everything and everybody, every body, every nature, things like that. So that's how I would define it.
So from my limited knowledge of history and prior to colonization, we were peaceful people.
Absolutely.
The natives of all the different lands that were, what's that word? pilgrimaged.
Okay. Yeah.
We were connected to nature.
1000%.
But now, when you talk about an interaction with nature, it's almost like we were conditioned to believe that we're speaking to spirits or evil or we are ungodly per se. But in other words, what you're saying is that we were created with a level of higher connectivity to nature and everything else that we interact with. But most of us don't know that.
No, because once you separate consciousness or awareness, then you can be controlled. So what colonization did, it separated us from that knowledge, that awareness. So now they can impose their own consciousness, their own traditions, their own, because now we're severed from that. So a part of that severance was to believe that going by a river and just bathing in the river, or just speaking to the river, or just saying your prayers at the river was evil. Right? And they instilled in us that our inferior, our slave masters, is our superior, our white God. That's insanity. That's delusional, actually, right? And I'm not even going to get into that. That's just what it is. So once a person is in some state of form of amnesia, then they can be controlled, because then they don't remember anything. So they'll only remember what you tell them. So if you tell them hugging a tree, walking barefoot, and I'm from a Jamaican background. I know when you go into the river and you have a bad day, or the first thing I do when I go to Jamaica is the ocean. The first 24 hours, I don't care if I'm going for a funeral, I go in the ocean. So physically, if I have a cut or something that's taken long to heal, it heals.
The minute you get out of that sea, that wound is closed up.
1000%. And not only that, that's my physical body, but my spiritual body or my emotional body feels less heavy. Right? So we knew that. We knew that the shaking, the dancing, and all this stuff were to help us be well. But now, when they say, oh, the twerking is ungodly, twerking was a way to heal the woman's womb. If you go to ancient tribes, right now, the dances that they do looks like twerking. Right? All that dance hall and all them Afro beats. The history of that right now. And they knew that if a woman wasn't childbearing, or she wanted to be childbearing, or there's certain dances that they did to activate the womb and get the womb ready or cleared of whatever. So, we won't know that knowledge. We won't even seek it if we believe that we're not that, or that's evil, right?
I do believe after just, a number of years of just trying to open my eyes to what life is and what the environment is, and even just to see myself too. It sounds a bit confusing, but open my eyes to see myself. Someone taught me that if you're ever in a state, or if your mood is ever in a irregular state, call it irregular, take off your shoes and just go walk barefooted outside. Get yourself connected back to the earth. But because we have been indoctrinated on so many levels, and when we speak to these nature connectivity aspects of life, it's almost like we're being ungodly, or we have some kind of an occultic circumstance or interaction that makes us, far from God per se. And so I've tried this for myself. Because just like you mentioned just now, when I think back in yonder years, we used to walk barefooted. We used to play
in the country. Barefooted. That's what we're playing soccer barefoot. We're walking. That was it.
And that was our way of healthy living. The scratch on the toe here and there, but that was healthy for us. That was connecting back to nature for us. But now we have been somewhat led astray from what true living is. But we are dispelling the lies and trying to get ourselves back to center. And that's the reason why I have you on the show.
Well, I was born and raised in church, yeah?
Same here.
Even baptized too, right? So I understand that. And then, my journey went into Sikhism, Buddhism, and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
One common denominator is God is in everything and everywhere and everyone. And God is basically omnipresent.
Yes.
So if you are walking barefoot, are you not connecting with God? Like, this is just thought. This is just provoking questioning, right? Now, if you want to go science, there's electric magnetic energy on the earth that actually pulls negative ions and energy out your body and recharges and refuels you. So if you want to talk science, that's the science. And this is what the West now, they're riding on it and making money. Now they have these grounding shoes and grounding mats and grounding beds and all of that. When this is up to 8, 10, 15,000 years old of ancient wisdom that we've practiced on indigenous lands. So I always tell people, if God is omnipresent, you walking barefoot, you're walking with God. Him or her, however you want to define it.
Not to get too technical with the laws of electricity here, but voltage flows back to earth.
Yes.
And you could call that ground if you want to make it a little bit more simple. Our bodies are conductors of electricity. There are electricity flowing through our body. How do they restart the heart? That AED machine, which is a electrical source, is what shocks back the body back to life. When they've repeatedly tried to bring you back, that is, if it is not your time. So walking barefooted is completing the circuit, which is life.
You see it there? You see it? They say one atom has 2 point something power voltage.
Yeah.
So so now we're getting into vibration and consciousness. Yeah. So a high vibrant person who's positive, realistic, but positive, loving, caring, forgiving, feeling calm and courageous, right? A person that carries high frequency. Yeah. They have enough voltage to one person to light up all of New York.
Yeah.
Right? Scientifically speaking, right? So when we are not aware of even ourselves and not even conscious of, I feel down. Some people think this feeling down is their baseline. That they think that that's their normal. Yeah. That's not your normal.
Yeah.
You are just as beautiful and as energetic as the birds in the morning when you hear them. So if you're not matching that frequency, no judgment, no heat, but shift.
Yeah.
We have to there's no excuse now not to be aware of, okay, what I'm feeling is not normal. Let me shift even by 1%.
Yeah.
Right? Walk barefoot, hug a tree, drink some water. Dr. Emoto he had that water experience. When you speak to water, like, you can literally get a cup of water. And what do you think prayer came from? Prayer came from because of the vibration of the words go into that. It infuses that food or drink. And then now you're ingesting that. And now it fuses the whole body, right? The sun can do it. You chop a coconut. It's the same thing, right? So I think a part of the whole Black consciousness, or just to be conscious, is to know, like, who you are and what your baseline is. And even if you're not aware, because some of us have been so depressed for so long.
Yes.
What do you want to feel like?
Yeah.
What do you want to start thinking about?
Yeah.
Right? If you have 40 or 50,000 thoughts a day and 80% of that's negative, you can shift that.
I just want to emphasize on this point just a little bit more before we move on. You start talking about atom. Now, atom, we're all made up of atom. The thing about, and just like you started saying, atom is made up of those surrounding molecules called protons and electrons.
Right.
We're just going back to electrical theory, which we are made of.
Right.
And the whole topic of just walking barefooted too, hold on to that one too. How many times have you found yourself in a spot where you're like, why the hell do I feel this way?
You see?
Why do I feel this way?
Yes.
And then someone came up with the theory that I need to find some way to center myself. And so people focus, and there are positive things that happen that comes from this. You'll find people turn into the negative things, such as alcohol, smoking, drug addiction, and so forth and so on. Because sometimes we do find ourselves in a state of imbalance.
Yeah.
But it's probably only because we're not grounded to earth. And that's why my therapy of walking barefooted is so important to me.
Yes.
Because that's when I get the opportunity to center myself.
Yeah.
Right? Because those currents, those voltages, all those stuff flowing through you need to go back to earth. And that's why you feel like you need to find a way to center yourself. I'm not abandoning therapy. I'm not abandoning speaking to someone in the professional environment, because I do feel like that is needed too at times. But what the therapist will eventually lead you to is finding back that center.
Absolutely.
That balance.
Yeah.
Where you tell yourself, I need to just focus on me just a little bit more.
Yeah.
That's what you want.
Yeah.
That's what was robbed or taken from us.
Yeah.
The ability to ground ourselves, to center ourselves with nature as it was created to be. So I'll give back Hathor-Ra the microphone, because she's a professional here. But
so are you.
That's literally
so are you.
That's literally what we're trying to accomplish here today in terms of mental health. But we're just starting. How does embracing Black consciousness impact mental health positively? This is important. So let me just make sure I repeat this question. How does embracing Black consciousness impact mental health positively? And what are some of the challenges that comes with it?
So in ancient times, we knew that having a balanced body and a balanced mind and a balanced spirit and balanced emotion will minimize sickness.
Yeah.
And sickness is dis-ease. You're not at ease.
Yeah.
You're not grounded, right? So we knew that in ancient times. So what we did was we made sure that there was a spiritual hygiene, a mental hygiene, emotional hygiene. Like there were things or rituals or daily habits that we had to feed ourselves.
Okay.
So when I started my journey, I focused solely on my mental health, my emotional health, and my spiritual health. And I forgot about my body.
Yeah.
So the traumatic little 11-year-old girl would snack, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Pizza is my thing. I'm not a burgers and fries person, but I'm a pizza and person. Chips, right? That's my thing.
What kind of pizza, by the way?
Veggie pizza with extra sauce.
Continue.
It was always my thing. Or when, sometimes ground beef and pineapple is
No, you're talking.
But the veggie, I did always have like hot peppers and pineapple or ground beef and pineapple, right?
Pineapple on pizza, I say, by the way. Pineapple on pizza, I say.
Oh, now you're getting me hungry. Okay. So delete. We are not going there today, Miss Phoenix. So I left my physical body. Yeah. And so even though I was strong mentally, spiritually, and everything like that, I was having aches, I was having pains. And I've been athletic my whole life, to be honest. Yeah. I've been moving around. I've worked in group homes and worked with children, youth, and all that stuff. So I realized that, first of all, I felt guilty, so I had to forgive myself. I'm like, you're doing all this work and you're still messed up inside, right? So I was judging myself. So I had to forgive myself for judging myself. Then I said, no, you're not balanced. You're not balanced. And so what did your ancestors do? My grandmother, my grandfather, they walked. Every day they were moving, they were walking. Yeah. Barefoot or not barefoot. So they were physically active. Every morning, my grandfather he was a butcher in Clarendon, so he would get grounded in the land before he even sharpened any of his blades. right? So that was his mental, spiritual groundedness. My grandmother would just sit on the veranda way in the morning and just sit and listen to the birds before she do. So, I mean, we didn't know that was a balance, but that was a consciousness or a DNA memory that they had that was, active from their parents.
Yeah.
And so when we look at the Black consciousness and mental health, there has to be a balance of our daily routine. Now it seems tedious because we're so removed from those things.
Absolutely.
But I always say inch by inch is a cinch, yard by yard is hard. Yeah. It's just that one thing, right? So even if you wake up and you stretch and you do deep breathing, that's 60 seconds.
Yeah.
You move I love Qigong personally more than yoga, but I'll do yoga.
What's Qigong?
Qigong is a methodology or practice that comes from China. Some of it came from ancient Egypt, but that's a whole different history. And it's all about balancing your chi, which your life force, your chi, or some people call it Kundalini energy, depending which part of the world you're from. Yeah. And so we have this life force, and it gets really activated through movement and breath. Yeah. So if you're really, really anxious, you take deep breath. All of a sudden you calm down. Yeah. If you're really, really tired, you take deep breaths. All of a sudden you get that energy activated. You feel revived a little bit, right? So Qigong is just a way of balancing through movement and breath and balancing the body. It's all about balancing, right? So I do a little bit of Qigong and what have you. So for me, when I don't do those things, I'm off. Yeah. I don't think clearly. I don't even sleep properly at night. Like there's no equilibrium within myself. So when we look at Black consciousness and mental health, it's all about the routine. Yeah. And we can't forget. And one of the things that colonialism did, it made us forget about our emotional and spiritual body. Yeah. And melanin allows us to have a sixth sense, which is if you don't believe me, just start on a rabbit hole of the science of melanin, right? I'm not even gonna go there, right? Mm-hmm. By Dr. Lalila Africa, he has some good content of that. So once we have melanin, it doesn't take us a lot to activate that spiritual muscle, that spiritual brain and consciousness. And then our intuition starts saying, get up now. Yeah. 5:30 in the morning, get up now.
Which we tend to ignore most of the time. Yeah.
It's shut down, right? Mm-hmm. So once we start to activate that, even awareness that I have a spiritual body, that spiritual body thinks a certain way. It needs something. It feels, right? Just like a physical body, your spiritual body, your emotional, right? So when we look at Black consciousness, particularly, and mental health, we have to have a routine that keeps these different bodies in balance.
I agree.
I could go deeper into thoughts, actions, and diet.
Whatever you can offer us today, we will gladly accept it.
So thoughts are electric, feelings are magnetic. Okay. So a part of spiritual hygiene is to keep your thoughts high vibrational. So back in the day, they would have WWJD. What would Jesus do? Right? Mm-hmm. So when I was a kid at church, we wore these little ribbon bands. What would Jesus do? So if you're at school and there's a fight, you would, pinch it and say, what would Jesus do? Right? Yeah. So I've kind of transmuted that energy or that saying, like, what would I do? Yeah. Or what would the Christ in me do? The Christ consciousness or the Buddha consciousness or the Krishna, whatever faith you are in me would do in this moment. I would stop and breathe. Yeah. I would stay silent. No, I would speak up. Yeah. Right? So once I started to realize that my thoughts carry a frequency, and that thought activated with a feeling, an emotion, that emotion now becomes magnetic. So the thought is communicating with people, person, place, or thing, and events. Then we have thousands of thoughts going, right? Yeah. It's communicating with the whole world like a web. Yeah. This is like a spiritual web. Mm. But what makes it powerful is the magnetism. So it becomes a magnet when it's a feeling.
Yeah.
I'm stupid. I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
You have that feeling. You go through a job interview. You go to work. You talk to your neighbors. That is the feeling that's activated.
Oh, yeah.
Communication's 80% nonverbal. So when you start to communicate, that's what you're communicating. So then they will treat you like you're not worthy and you're not smart. And then you're like, you see, everybody take me for a fool. Yeah. Everybody. No. You took yourself for a fool. And this is hard to process, especially someone who's gone through trauma, But I'm telling you, you can name every trauma on that trauma list.
Yeah.
I've lived it, right? Divorce, bankruptcy, childhood, everything I lived through. So I'm speaking from personal experience.
Lived experience.
1000%. And if I can do it, and various of my clients can do it, so can you.
Yeah.
So be mindful of your thoughts are electric. Feelings are magnetic. So you bring back, you attract what you are. Then you hold that. So the third step is you act as though it's already done. So this 3-step, we do it unconsciously. Yeah. But we do it negatively, but we can do it positively. Right. I am beautiful. I am smart.
Exactly.
I'm an international speaker. I feel that. Oh, Joel said, come on the show. So we come on the show.
And I'm happy you came.
I'm happy I'm here. Right. And now I'm like, oh yeah, I am an international speaker or a healer. Right. So whether it's you and I talking, you and your audience, or 10 million people, the energy I feel right now that's what it is, right? So now I don't know what your questions are, but you can throw me any questions because now I'm in a state of balance. Does that make sense?
Oh, trust me, it does.
So that's one aspect. And then of course, foods and stuff can change your thoughts, right? Your gut health. There's 3 minds, your brain mind, your heart mind, and your gut mind. Your gut has more nerves than your heart and your brain. So if your gut is off based on bad diet, it can actually cause depression and anxiety. So this is scientifically proven too. Yeah. So when we look at mental health, we have to look at the foods that we are ingesting and our thoughts, the physical and the mental at least.
Very profound. These very same thoughts and ideas that you have just laid out are the very same thoughts and ideas that are just twisted in another form. What I mean by this is, have you heard the phrase, it's what you put out there, you'll get back to you. Or we can even dig deeper into biblical explanations. Faith, the substance of things not seen. It's the same thing. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is, what you believe in your mind that you want, you, even though it's not there, you have to hold firm to that focus that you can reach for it. I'm just saying, you just laid that out in the same way that we were taught, but just in a different environment.
Yeah. You call from the unseen to be seen.
Yeah.
So even if we want to go scripture, the world that we live in started off with words.
Yeah.
When God commanded, it was the word of God. It was the vibration of the sound. Yeah. But even before the sound was the thought.
Yeah.
Was a thought, the sound. Then the feeling, it's done. And then there's the manifestation. So it's biblical, it's quantum, it's everything depending on your lens, right?
Is it possible that, and we're not going to get too biblical here, but the very same scripture was influenced by science? Okay. I see where you're going. Let's break this down.
Okay.
The Bible says that in the beginning was the Word. The Word. And, the Word became flesh. And
the Word was within. But within what? Within consciousness, thought.
Thank you for that. So I'm just trying to link the science with the scripture, which tend to get severed most times than not. Because, the conflict between science and God, it's almost like they don't go together well. But the science cannot go without God.
Yeah, so science is, so again, one of the severance of colonialism and transatlantic slave and stuff is to make us believe that science and spirituality are separate. They're actually the same. They're one of the same.
That's the point I'm trying to
right?
make.
Yeah. 1000%. So, so the thing is, can you be spiritual, which is science? So spiritual, you have, you know, the knowing.
Yes.
Can you be spiritual and religious? Yes. Can you be religious and spiritual? No. Religion is based on belief.
Okay.
Belief can be changed.
Okay.
Based on your level of understanding and information.
Yeah.
Right? The world was round, now the world is quantum. The world is flat, round, quantum, right? But the person who knew it was quantum can see it's round and flat, right? So belief can change with information. Knowing is when you have undisputable facts.
Right.
There's an undisputable fact.
Yeah.
That is knowing. That's spirituality. Yeah. It's undisputable facts. Why? Because it's based on science.
Yeah.
Right? It's foundation. I'm not talking about Scientology and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like people can pull from things and create their own. KKK uses the Bible, okay? So anybody can pull anything to use anything. I'm not talking about any of that.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about the understanding that we had now to create balance, yeah?
Yeah.
So we had a knowing that spirituality and science were one of the same.
Yeah.
So with that knowing, we can take that knowing and bring it to any religion in the world, right? But religion is based on belief. That's why they call them believers.
Yeah.
Right? And that can be changed based on undisputable facts.
Yeah.
Which we're not going to get into because that's what you said.
No.
Which that's not my lane. I don't get into that. We're not going on that right? Path. Yeah. So what you're saying, I'm just supporting what you're saying and second what you're saying, that when we look at spirituality and science, they're both one and the same. Yeah. One is an inner knowing and one is an external knowing based on testing. That's the difference, right? Okay. But they're both undisputable facts, right? Just like you said, you walk in a room and the vibe is good. You don't need to know the personalities to know, like, you need to leave. Yeah. Or it's safe for you to stay, right? You don't, right? But when it comes to believers or believing, they could say, I don't believe that. That's good. Yeah. You don't have to believe anything, but you can't say it's not fact. Yeah. Right? So I think with colonialism and, you know, the whole transatlantic slave times that we were in, they were actually for the minds, for the consciousness to sever that knowingness, right? And then they put in their belief system, whatever it was.
In every religion that we've dipped our toe in just for awareness, there seemed to be a heavy emphasis on the battle for the mind.
Yeah.
Because I think that was literally the foundation of colonialism. Capturing the mind of those individuals who were not somewhat aware of certain aspects or things to control.
Yes.
So...
Can I interject?
Oh, of course. Jump in anytime, man.
So why did they want to capture the mind? They wanted to capture the mind because of capitalism. Yes. Because of money. So the transatlantic slave is based on money. Yeah. But they couldn't. It was a big triangle. Yeah. From England, Africa, West Indies. Yeah. You know, or North America. So it's this big triangle, the transatlantic slave, that was all about money.
Yes.
But you can't get money if you can't control the people. Yeah. Right? So they had to use whatever devices. Yeah. So turn it back to you. I just kind of want to insert that because it's people, we get emotional when it comes to racism, but it's all about money.
It is.
So when we are capitalistic, I gotta have the big house. You are feeding into racism because it's a system, right? But that's a whole. So back to you with the with slavery and the severance.
I just want to say that back then we were the 1,000 cattle on the hills.
Yes.
And that has just switched to another form. Because if you look in the work environment, the objective is to control the employee.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So there is still an ongoing battle for the mind. Marketing is a battle for the mind. Social media is a battle for the mind.
Absolutely.
We spend, I'm guilty also. we spend a ton of time on TikTok.
Okay, yeah.
Because of the purpose of TikTok is to keep you there.
Yeah.
The purpose of social media is to keep you
in their matrix. Yeah. Yeah. So you're not going to read. You're not going to go to nature. You're not going to
exercise.
No.
You're not going to spend time with your family.
No.
You're not going to be having moments with your significant other.
No.
You're not going to be eating healthy.
No.
Because most of your time is going to be spent in the matrix. You know, I wonder if, and maybe some do understand that the movie The Matrix was not just it was not just for entertainment.
It was a documentary, I think. Some people say, some of my elders say it's a documentary to teach us about life and what life it really is on different levels. And I mean, Neo, he actually got superpowers when he shifted his consciousness. And when he shifted his consciousness, he became his own mind.
Who do you think Neo is supposed to represent? I'm asking you that.
That's a good question.
I'm going to give you the answer. Who do you think Neo is supposed to represent?
Our lower and higher consciousness?
Okay,
I don't know.
So that is partly true, but Neo is supposed to represent God.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I've heard that. I thought it was a trick question.
No,
like,
no.
Okay, I've heard yeah.
Neo is the representation of the coming Savior.
Yes.
Who was supposed to deliver those people from...
The one. He was the
one.
Yes. Okay.
The Matrix is a representation of the world we live in right now.
Absolutely. It's all a program.
And the Matrix in its cyber stance is how we are now being contained in the cyber world right now. Everyone with a smartphone is locked into the Matrix. They don't even know it.
No. You know, when I I'm going to tell you a little thing. Years ago, when Facebook first came out, we didn't have it on our phone. So I was stuck to my desktop on Facebook and Messenger and Black Planet and all this stuff back in the day. And then when I come off, the sun is down, dinner's not cooked, my son homework not done, he didn't go for a walk, the house never clean up. And I said, whoa. And it just felt like I was just in the Matrix. I was just lost. So I started to record my time. So I didn't deny myself of that dopamine hit, but I started to record it. Did you know 4 to 6 hours per day on average? That's a part-time job. So I actually cut out all of that and got a second job. I got 2 jobs for many, many years. I worked 2 jobs. So, and I think that was a blessing for me because I can't see how people now are getting hooked because you can't catch yourself. Before it was slower, it was just coming in, right? So we spend a lot of time. People's like, Miss Phoenix, how do you have so much time on your hands every day to do all these things? And I said, first of all, time is an illusion. I do tasks. I do just things. A. B, I'm not on my phone like that. Sorry.
Good for you.
Yeah, like I realize when it's affecting my spirit. Right? It's like I feel lower.
Yes.
I actually feel heavy.
Can I just quickly, because I don't want to lose this thought. China does not allow their population to have Facebook. Do you know that?
Yeah.
Even though TikTok is a Chinese-owned company, it's not in China.
No.
So what China has discovered is a strategy, a long-term game.
Yes.
To stupefy the other nation. Which is feeding us junk. Getting us lost on our smartphone, dumbing us down. Or should I say making us dumber.
1000%.
Because if we're not thinking, if we're not innovating, if we're lost on our phone, most of the time we can't grow. We can't innovate.
No, you're stuck in this cycle.
So now they have a whole set of docile nation, easy to defeat. It is a war game.
And they have their children not only learning martial arts and different modalities.
Yeah.
They have their children learning Nigerian language, Ghanaian language.
Oh, really?
Swahili. Like, you can even Google this. You'll find little kids.
Yeah.
So while we have our kids in front of a device, they have their kids in nature.
Yeah.
And expanding their consciousness. Because if you're going to dominate, you're going to dominate through the youth and children. So
let's just emphasize the battle for the mind.
Yes.
That's the war that's being fought right now.
Yes.
It's not boots on the ground anymore.
No.
It's either cyber.
Yep.
Or, well, it really is just cyber.
Yeah. Yeah, because the cyber world, the net, represents the brain.
It represents consciousness. Yeah.
So we just need to ask, which consciousness is active right now? The matrix that they've given us? Or is it our own brain circuits? Is it our own connectivity that is webbing and that's solving and that's thinking and feeling? So who's doing the thinking? So some people, they're like, oh, cancel this person. They get all emotional. Why? Oh, because you were told. Yeah. So if you come up the matrix, would you really have cared about this, that? Like, even with the whole, I'm not going to bring up COVID, but what I will bring up is COVID taught me how unconscious this world is. Nobody questioned anything.
Yeah.
Nobody asked questions within themselves. Nobody said, okay, I really want to do this. Let me do a little bit more research.
Yeah.
Right? Whether you want to take things or not take it, I don't care. Like, whatever. Do what you need to do, especially if you're in the health professional. Do what you need to do to be safe, but do it consciously.
Yeah.
I don't even let's switch it. So I used to have conversation with girlfriends about polygamy and monogamy, and I support women to have different partners. If that floats your boat, why not? Right? But what is the consciousness behind it?
Yeah.
Are you doing it because you know you can make love and you love and different experiences, or are you doing it from fear or from unconscious, or because you're trying to get money, or you want a sugar daddy, or you know what I mean? So it's not so much of the behavior or the act, it's the consciousness behind it. And are you in the matrix making that decision, or are you unplugged making it from a place of power versus fear type of thing?
This level of conscious invasion.
Oh, I like that.
I literally just came up with that one.
I need a pen and paper. This is recorded, so okay. Conscious invasion.
Conscious invasion.
I love that.
I'm getting there. We both know that our phones are listening to us. We both know that our phones are watching us. But, and again, I have no proof of this. This is just my opinion. But your phone is also trying to predict what you're thinking too. I'll tell you what, this is gonna be weird as hell.
It's not weird.
I was talking to someone the other day. I'm sure they're gonna be watching this show. And every year I get my ears syringed. Religiously, every year. Because all of those stuff that you see lumps of stuff coming out of your ears. When you wouldn't believe that there's some lumps in your ears right now that you can't see. Anyway. I know that's gross. That's something else. And I was, traveling for work as usual, and I was just batting my ears because it's that time. Literally, my body's telling me it's that time.
Wow.
Batting my ears. Giving a little wacky stuff. Without a shadow of a doubt, I went on my phone. You know what I was seeing?
The syringe thing?
Someone getting their ears syringed.
Okay.
Now, when I saw that video and the fact that I was thinking about it, I was like, no way. This thing is next level
It's actually
next level invasion.
It's invasion, but it's actually kind of brilliant too, because in all truth there's false, and all false there's truth, right? So remember earlier I said thoughts are electric?
Yes.
Right? Electricity carries information.
Yes.
Right? So as long as this is connected to some form of receiver of Wi-Fi data, whatever, satellite, any electric signals, it will pick up. It has the technology to then transmute that and feed it back. That's what it's for, right? But this technology, it's called, I call it African sacred science, has existed. So when a person was sick, right, before any of this stuff, right, they would go see a medicine man or a medicine woman, and they will just say, your man's cheating on you, or you have cancer, or you're pregnant, or right? So thoughts are electric. So they were able to pick up the thoughts and frequency from that person and who that person's connected to, even though the person that they're getting readings from is not even in the room. They were able to pick up those signals because feelings, emotions, thoughts are electrical. We just have a device now to do that collection. But the first AI was us. Or is us. We are AI. And I know this to be true because when I'm in my healing work and I'm doing, readings, like people come to me for readings, I'm knowing information just as fast as ChatGPT. And they're like, oh, but that's a gift from my great grandmother in St. Elizabeth, right? So because I have that ancient wisdom, I'm not scared of AI. It's actually quite phenomenal, and I get curious and excited what's next.
I am too.
Right? And we have to, because that's where we're headed.
That's where we're headed.
That's where we're at. But it can be scary because it's an external thing that is interpreting an internal thing, right?
I'll conclude and say that we are the simulation that's now been simulated.
Okay. Where's my pen and paper?
You can watch the video. You can watch the show. You can watch the show afterwards and get all the gems from it. I throw this book into the in our discussions because it's a book that I've read, keep reading over and over. Not necessarily the whole book, but synopsis of the book. It's called Outwitting the Devil.
I love that book.
Written by Napoleon
Hill. Yeah.
So you know where I'm getting.
Oh my gosh.
So he spoke about drifting. Essentially, drifting is being controlled by external influences without conscious awareness. It's literally what we just spoke about. Do you think a lack of Black consciousness leads to this kind of drifting? And how can embracing Black identity help individuals take control of their mental health? Because I do believe that that's the foundation of all we're discussing right now.
We got to start off with self-love.
Okay.
We hate ourselves.
I've been hearing that phrase a whole lot.
But when I mean self-love, it's this unconditional love. Right? I have thick lips. I have thick hips. I love that. Took me time because I didn't look like, I was always in an all-white school, all-white neighborhood.
Everybody wants that now.
Everybody, even I have a little gap here I don't kind of see. My dentist said, do you know how much people are paying thousands of dollars for that? And I said, for my gap?
Very true.
And I said, whoa, so I guess I'm in naturally, right?
You are in now.
And I had to come to a place, but I was very fortunate that even growing up in a Christian home, my father, he's not the nicest person, but he was okay when we were children. He would say, Jesus is Black, Moses is Black, Mary is Black. We didn't have a white Christ. If we're going to put anything up in the walls, they got to look like us. That's just how. So I have a liberated consciousness of self-love, right? He didn't allow like I have brothers and sisters. There's 5 of us. We're all different complexions, right? He didn't allow the colorism in there in the household. Like it was black. We bought black business, black. So I grew up with a different level of self-identity, self-love. And so when I go out into the world now, I am not denying my hair to straighten my hair or deny like wigs. And no offense to people who like I used to wear weaves. I probably wore a wig once or two, you know, whatever. But I didn't wear it because I was hiding my hair or hiding my identity. So before we could even go into Black mental wellness or health or consciousness, if you don't love yourself really and truly and accept yourself, that's going to be an issue. And the deeper you go, and to love yourself is to know thyself. So the deeper you go into knowing yourself in terms of African history, and we got to be mindful which history you're reading, because some of it wasn't written by us, even though it's about us. So once you're going into like Francis Welsing's, John Henry Clark, different people, once you start getting into your history, what happens is there's an emotional, psychological pain that starts to develop because everything you thought you were starts to be debunked and starts to be demystified. Sometimes that's religion, to be honest.
No, I agree with you.
And it's not that you got to throw away religion, but you, like for me, I look at religion or Christianity from an African consciousness now, not a European mind, right? A decolonized mind. So once we start to know thyself, which is going into your history, right? Self-confidence, self-love comes from self-knowing. We spend differently, we eat, we do everything differently. But what happens is because it starts to create this conscious pain, this emotional pain, we stop or we don't go further. So we continue with the delusions, right? That distorts our consciousness and creates imbalance and sickness, right? And then we allow these microaggressions, we allow these things to happen. Oh, it's not that bad, it's not, right? And all of these things. So before we could even get to a balanced mental health in a Black body or an African body, we got to love ourselves and love yourself enough to know thyself. Every nation knows thyself. You speak to a Chinese kid, a Korean kid, a Japanese kid, a Russian kid, they know their history. And they know how their history was great. And they know when their history afflicted others in a bad way. They know everything about their history. And then you understand the blood that runs through your veins. So when you understand the blood that runs through your veins, your DNA, you walk with power. And when you walk with power now, you walk with this higher vibration of consciousness.
Exactly.
And it becomes it's like a medicine. So, you know, we can talk about all the other things about mental health. You go for a walk, get grounded. Before you could even know that, because some people don't even think that they deserve the first 90 seconds of their morning, a minute and a half to pray, meditate, and they don't think they deserve that. Oh, I gotta go. I got the kids, the husband, the this, right? So we got to love ourselves, but you can't love yourself if you don't know who you are. Period. And this is me decolonizing myself. It took me time, and I'm still doing that, right? Once I understood my history and my people, whether Jamaican people, and my great grandmother's father from Papua New Guinea, so I have that indigenous bloodline. All of a sudden, first of all, I vibrate so high, I don't even attract certain situations that people will say racist situations. For a person that's so pro-African, you would think I went through a lot. I didn't, to be honest. I just know that it's something we need to talk about. So once you get into that space of self-love, and the self-love is through knowing thyself, and love is a verb. So you're going to act differently. Love is not an adverb or a noun. Love is an action word, right? Then you start to act differently. once you start acting differently, then you start to realize that your experiences are different. Then you start to think differently, and then your consciousness starts to rise, right? But I would start there.
Man, these are some very profound stuff, man. I'm just amazed by the knowledge that I'm gobbling up right now. I feel like I'm gonna watch this story a few times too as well.
This is healing. This is what healing looks like.
I agree.
I was a hot mess. People used to call me hothead. I was ratchet. You got me mad. Man or woman, me I go headbutt you.
That's me.
Yeah.
That's me when I just came to Canada.
Interesting.
Because the mind game, and I want to choose my words wisely here. The mind games that are played here, specifically in the work and social environment, people like us would always fall victim to it.
Yeah.
Because we come from an environment, no more you, where there's just no filter.
Yeah.
If we feel this way, we act on it.
Yeah. Straight cut. Yeah.
Which is, poor emotional regulation, etc., etc., etc. But without going down that road, because that's not healthy for us right now. Let's say for someone that's listening to us right now, and they're inspired, and they want to start their own journey. How would they get on board with that level of consciousness for their own mental health and mental well-being? Because I'm still on my journey.
Me too.
I love the journey. I love the journey that I'm on.
Yeah.
Because the man that I am today was not the man that I was 5 years ago.
Wow.
And that's because I now know who I am.
Right.
Miss Phoenix, you ever see when these scientific pictures when all the lights just get turned on and you see all the sparkles and the fireworks in the sky? That's me a few years ago. The switches are now turned on. My level of consciousness now is, if I stay on the path, because you can get derailed from the path.
Yeah.
And I personally want to stay on the path. And so as much as I can learn to develop, to grow, gain awareness of self, I want to keep learning. So from your level of expertise, how do we, for those that are listening, how does someone start to build this level of consciousness, gain this level of consciousness?
Well, I'm going to start off where you're at the right place at the right time with the right people.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we feel ashamed because we're too old, or we should have gotten this, So no, beloved, you're at the right place at the right time. So just be okay with where you're at.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is, it's okay if you do get derailed. Yeah. Because once you learn a little bit, you'll have that knowledge forever, and you can get back on track. Right. Yeah. So that's the second thing, and the third thing is to start telling yourself the truth.
Oh my gosh, I could give you a high five right now. I'm not gonna reach you because you're so far.
We'll do it. Air five. Telling yourself the truth.
Yeah, keep going, because I want to contribute to this too as well.
No, go, because I'll remember what I'm gonna say.
No, keep going, please.
Yes. So telling yourself the truth, because, with my PTSD, I was having panic attacks, which looked like heart attacks. So I kept calling the ambulance, and I didn't realize that it was post-trauma coming up, right? And it affected the way I spend. I would overspend. It affected the way I would overwork out. I would overdo just to compensate for this void. Yeah. So it wasn't until I told myself the truth, I was able to say, oh, okay. Yeah. The next step, and I kind of follow some of these steps through different literatures, but there's a book called by Alana Benzant, the day my heart opened up, or something like that. So she goes through a whole series of daily steps, 40 days of something, right, of opening up. But anyhow, I borrowed a little bit of her and a little bit of other people. So the first thing is telling yourself the truth. The second step is trusting the process. Yes. That's why I opened up. You're at the right place at the right time, and just trust that. Then be willing be flexible and willing, because I was so immersed in church, and so immersed in Black consciousness from my father. I started to be angry at white people and this and that. And so I even had to learn to have compassion for white people, which it takes time. Consciousness for Asian people, anybody who violated the African and African descent. That took a while, but once I was willing to learn their history, if a little boy is watching his dad hang a Black man and everybody's clapping and laughing, his environment, his epigenetics taught him that this is good. So I had to learn to have compassion, but the willingness to read some of this history and to listen had to be there, right? I had to be flexible. So I would honestly start off with just knowing that you're at the right place. So no judgment, no heat. If there's judgment, you release it to a time and place of nothingness.
Absolutely.
Okay, you release that judgment and then start telling yourself the truth. I'm not happy. If you're married, what can you do to contribute to your marriage? If you are unwed, what can you do to be happy as an unwed person, or whatever the case may be? Because we lie to ourselves. And I'm a storyteller by nature. So me can tell myself every story, right? And I'll make up these lies, and and I'm doing this, and I'm self-destructing in that, right? And so, and I live the life of you can name it. I've had a BMW, made 10, 15 grand a month, whatever, to like being on welfare, right? On social assistance. So, and all the difference was telling myself the truth. Right? Because the truth literally sets you free. So what truth does, it calms your nerves. If you have anxiety. It opens up your heart. So your heart valve. So there's actually a physiological response when you tell yourself the truth. And when you learn to say no, you know what? I don't want to hang out with you this weekend. So maybe, ask somebody else, instead of saying yes. And then you're like, oh my God. Right? So telling yourself the truth in all areas of your life. I'm ratchet. Right? When I love you, you're not going to think that there's a spiritual bone in me because I'm a protector. I'm a lioness. Right? I own that. That's my truth. Right? I'm also an overthinker. So I need a lot of information. I need to, right?
That's me too.
So I need to
know.
Right? I need to know.
I need to know.
I need to know. Right? So all of these things, telling myself the truth, I just started to love myself more, There's so much other things, but even just practicing to tell yourself the truth for 1 year, just take 12 months to start to say yes to you and no to somebody else. Can you do that? No, I can't, because you're saying yes to, because you want to sleep in. You don't want to get up in the morning and drop off nobody to no airport. Some stuff like that. So that once you've learned the yes and no's, then your body, you retrained your body on balance and what's safe and what it needs. Then once your body knows truth now and not lies anymore, because we trained it to lie, then we could I'm going to start with working out. I'm going to start with a physical healing, or your body will tell you what it needs, right? But you can't if you can't tell yourself the truth.
I just cling on to a phrase there you just said, because it ties into my thought process right now.
Okay.
We have trained our bodies, our minds too, over time to lie.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
We live in such a complex, dark and polluted world where everybody wants to be like the next person, or a persona has been created in terms of what is the hallmark of identity.
Right.
So in other words, let's go back to the matrix again, social media. If you see the trends and the memes, some of them are quite entertaining, but I see a cry of people wanting to belong to something. Hence, we see the various game shows. Again, go back to the various memes, the relationship stories of what happiness and a good relationship should look like. That, for the most part, a great percentage of us, we're lying to ourselves. Honesty is the best filter you could ever have for your own self and to gain that consciousness. That's from my experience, that is. Because honesty filters out all things that is not good for you.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about relationship. Not the, I'm no expert here. But the worst thing you could do is lie to someone in terms of who you are.
Yeah.
And what your expectations are.
Yes. I did that a lot in my relationship.
I think a lot of us have done that.
Yeah. And then when I got comfortable, I showed up as my true self. And I was like, who are you? I don't know you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what happens to you for the long term? You're creating now a destructive and imploding persona that only lasts for a very short while.
Yeah.
If you want to, for you single people out there and teenagers, if you want to attract the best mate, put aside the pretense and let that person know who you truly are, because that is who will be accepted. Because remember, when you create a false persona of who you are, how long can you play that game for? And a lot of people play this game right into marriage.
I was about to say some people play it for a long time.
That's what I'm saying.
Because they start to believe their own lies.
But eventually, our true selves
comes out.
Can only stay hidden for so long.
Yeah.
So just for this little pocket of the conversation.
Yeah.
And it's tied into consciousness too.
Absolutely.
And mental health.
Yeah.
Is honesty.
1000%.
Be true to yourself. Know thyself.
Yeah.
Is that Shakespeare?
Yeah. No, it's actually know thyself comes from ancient Egyptians. So one of the temples, the hieroglyphs, when it's one of the first and last things you read is know thyself.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the common denominator in everything that we're talking about.
Yeah.
To be conscious is to know thyself, right? To love is to know thyself, right?
So when you walk into these rooms, I just want to finish my spiel. When you walk into these rooms that you're trying to build a reputation for yourself, whether it be business or otherwise, you want people to know who you are, and you will stand stronger and sure, and you will thrive when you bring forth your true self.
Absolutely.
Because here's the beautiful thing about knowing thyself.
Yeah.
There's only one you.
Yep.
There will never, in this present time or the next, be another Joel.
No.
Never.
No.
And for this show, I want to present my most authentic self because I'm competing with no one. And I, again, just want to emphasize, if you want to start your conscious journey, just like my sister say over here, start out with honesty.
Absolutely.
Now, mental health is still a taboo topic in many Black communities. There are often strong emphasis on resilience and faith. Not that anything is wrong with that. But sometimes that comes at the expense of seeking professional help. How do you see this playing out among Black individuals?
How do I see seeking professional help?
Professional help, yeah.
Well, you have to know that you're not well to do that. And that comes with honesty, right? And telling yourself the truth. I mean, if you're driving a car, like I drove my winter beater today. If I'm smelling something, I'm not going to ignore the smell. If I smell something burning, I got to go to the mechanic and get it checked out, right? So if you're oversleeping, undersleeping, overeating, undereating, short-tempered, angry or always sad, or crying 2-3 weeks straight, don't want to get out of bed, or you're always thinking about the next thing, you're not present, always in regret of the past, not present. And I don't mean sporadically, I mean like always, like it's a chronic thing that's happening daily, weekly, months.
Yeah.
Those are some of the signs and symptoms that something's off.
Yeah.
So I always say, you go to a professional, either a clinical social worker, a clinical therapist, or a psychologist. Those three can assess your behaviors. A psychiatrist assess the chemical imbalances that's affecting your brain. So you go to a psychiatrist, they're actually there for medication. They're not there to talk. They don't care how you feel. They may ask so they could see, is this medication actually for bipolar or depression? So they'll ask some questions. So once you get that external help, you have to practice those other things that we talked about. Eating for good gut health. Be careful of your environment. Because if your environment is the stressor, sometimes when you change your environment, you actually don't need medication or a therapist, right? So it's that balance too. I am big support of therapy. I've gotten therapy, and then I had spiritual coaches, regular coach, elders. So I've tried different modalities, group therapy. I love group therapy. That's just me. But we have to know and tell ourselves the truth of where we're at. And then going to your family doctor to say, if you know something's off and your family doctor's saying, oh, nothing's wrong with you, or your family doctor is quick to prescribe meds and they didn't do a psychological assessment or something like that, you probably want to challenge. So it's both ways, right? If they're ignoring you or they're too proactive, you want to go with that feeling when you know, like, okay, something's off. Then normally they would refer you to a clinician or something like that. Or nowadays you can Google it, especially if you have insurance, or they have a sliding scale, if you don't have insurance. So there's different ways to do that. Because I'm not a clinician, but I am a mental health wellness expert. When and if you don't have certain resources, or you're not there yet to go to the doctor or what have you, get into nature. Get into nature. Go for a walk. Go by the water. We're in Alberta. Well, for some of you listening, you may be in Alberta, but I don't care if you're in Jamaica, Alberta, Atlanta. Find nature and be with nature. What nature does is it calms your nervous system. It calms your thoughts. At first, it'll feel weird, and but don't worry. Just allow your nerves to calm down. You'll feel agitated. Allow the agitation to come. No judge. Just let it flow. Once it's out, maybe 20 minutes, 10 minutes, depending on you, then all of a sudden, you might cry, you might get angry, you might say, no, man, I really need help. Then your body can actually talk to you. But your body has so much interference because of everything else. So if you're not ready to talk to anybody, if you're not ready to even let family know, like, you're having intrusive thoughts or you're feeling depressed, get into nature and just trust. Tell yourself the truth. I'm not well, get into nature. And the second one is trust. And just trust your body, trust the process. Because sometimes talk therapy one-on-one is not for everybody. And I've noticed that with Black men. And that's a whole different topic, but it's not for everybody. For me, coaching works better than talk therapy. I understand psychology, so I actually don't need that too much. Even if being seen by a psychologist, I need a coaching approach. So you can't see the picture when you're in the frame, or you can't see the label when you're in the bottle. So if I'm in the game doing my thing, I need a coach on the sideline to say, listen, your shot is off, this is that. So for me, coaching works better than therapy, right? But I had to come to that truth by settling my mind and then exploring options, right? So I'm not gonna say go to therapy. It might not be for everybody, but you gotta silence yourself to know what you need. Sometimes you just need to change your diet and work out. Right?
I agree.
So when it comes to like mental health and getting the help and a clinician, before you get to that point, you have to ask yourself, what do I need right now? If you're in psychosis, meaning which you could have hallucinations, so you could be smelling and hearing things, or delusions, you're thinking things that are not there. those situations are a little bit more tricky. Now, the good thing about those situations is you have sprouts, ups and downs of that. Every person that I've worked with in the last 18 years who lives with schizophrenia or anything like that, or schizoaffective disorder, they always have a moment of truth.
Yeah.
They know that they're not well, and they know that they're not fitting in. They know that they're paranoid and all of these things. So in those moments of truth, you can still go to nature, because some of them are not on their meds because of whatever reasons.
Yeah.
So every case that I've seen, that I've worked with, whether in the clinical world or not, nature was always a good place for them. And it's like, you know what, I'm ready for help, or I'm ready for this, or what have you, right? But it's really, really tricky, because, and I hope I don't get pinned for this, but we rather deal with the known hells than the unknown heavens. Yeah. So some of us want to stay in that depressive. Some of us want to be angry and yell and cuss.
That's a fact.
And because that's what we know. It's the known hell than to discover or uncover the unknown heavens from within. Yeah. So I've seen people in the Black community, I work heavily with the Black community, who don't really want the help. They don't want wellness, and I respect that. That's their journey of their soul in this time.
Can I toss you a curveball while you're on that point?
Here we go.
And just your opinion, of course, and also your professional expertise. Okay. But is there a possibility that a lot of therapists, they do more harm than good? I'll tell you why I'm bringing this up. Because they say the best way to prove a deal, if it's a good deal, is to poke holes in it to see if the deal is solid. I'm making reference to therapists now. So is there a possibility that sometimes therapists, they do more harm than good, and why?
In social service work and social work, my first week or second day, one of the professors said, for those of you who want to do social work because you were molested or abused or whatever, and you want to help those who were abused or molested or had, an alcoholic father or mother, go get healing first and then come here, because you're going to bleed on others. Yeah. Right? So I'm not discrediting therapists. Yeah. But if we get into the helping field because of our own story, that's fantastic. Because now you can get some of the technical and academic skills, but you have the lived experience of how it plays out into practical world. But if you don't do the inner work, it's actually one of the principles is you can't give what you don't have. An indigenous principle. So now you become a thief to yourself, because now you're pulling from an empty cup. And you're giving people piece of the cup as it cracked because now it's dry. You can't do that. So it's a violation to give what you don't have. And so if you don't have inner peace, you can't teach or give peace. If you don't have inner wisdom and love and calmness, you can't give that, right? So I think the one thing I'm always reminded is the healer needs healing too. Right? The therapist needs therapy too. So there's nothing wrong with a therapist going through divorce or going through changes in their life or going through a minor health issue or major health issue. They can still practice. But what are you doing to care for yourself? You cannot give what you don't have. You are your first client. I'm not going to have nobody talk about physical health and working out. I'm not there yet. Right? But if you're sick, I can say, okay, you put the yellow dock root with the burdock root and echinacea could help your immune system and da-da-da. I can do that because I practice that.
Yeah.
And I've mastered that, right? Learning, understanding, application, embodiment, the 4th stage. So I've embodied a lot of things, but I don't go to the gym every day.
Yeah.
I love the gym. I love working out. I love being physical, but that's not, so I'm not going to talk and teach about that. So as therapists, if you're going to show up and if you're going to help someone with alcohol and addictions or depression or whatever your specialty is, you got to be practicing that. How dare you be a dentist and you have gingivitis and your breath stinks? How dare you be a dietitian, you know, and you're overweight? No shame, no game with overweight, because I'm a fluffy girl, so I'm not, right? But you got to attain and maintain these things first. How dare you go into a relationship, I want a high value man, and you don't have a license, your credit sucks, you're barely working, you don't know how to cook and clean or budget, and you want a high value man. You get what I'm saying? When I wrote down high value man, I had to match those things. I said, whoa, let me not date. Let me start working on myself, right? And that's just practical day-to-day stuff. So in the professional world, therapists are not really saying, what's my roughest client and what's my ideal client after working with them? Okay, do I have these things within me to bring them from here to here? Mentally, physically, and spiritually, right? It's not a formula. Even though therapists think it's a formula, okay, I'm going to do DBT, I'm going to do CBT. It's not that. It's this holistic approach. So you can't give what you don't have. How dare you ask for something that you can't give, right? And I think a lot of people go into this health world giving what they don't have. No judgment, no heat, but fix your stuff first. Fill up your cup first. And then, you know, pour the excess coming out of the cup in the well. That's what you give away. You know? And I've done that, and it's called burnout when you give what you don't have. Right? So I hope that answered the question.
Man, you chop it open into different, open it up, magnifying glass, the whole works. So what's the future for Miss Phoenix? What does the future look like? Because I'm sure, you know, you want to share some of your plans and your goals and your vision, and so people can support you along the way. So are you comfortable sharing some of that? Of
course, yeah. So last week I just finished a course called Body Talk. And it's using Chinese medicine, kinesiology, chiropractic, like different modalities to learn to communicate to the body and ask the body what it needs. And then ask the body not only what it needs, but what is the priority right now that's creating an imbalance. So it's I like it because I've learned all these indigenous ways. And here is kind of like a streamline, besides my intuition that I've always used. Here's a way to streamline. So Body Talks is what it's called. So that's something that's rolling out very soon. I'm still in my practicum, so I have to wait to get licensed. So that's fresh off the press. The second thing that we've been doing at Sacred Health and Wellness is mental health first aid training. So mental health first aid training for people who interact with youth, mental health first aid training for the general public, and mental health first aid training for those who are from the African descent, or Caribbean and African Black descent. So we're trained in all three. And so we do that for organizations, for nonprofits. If you're a chief of police, if you're a stay-home nanny mom, whatever, that course, it's a practical course. Just like CPR first aid. If someone's bleeding, you know what to do. If someone's depressed, suicidal, have eating disorder, what do you do? What's your first response, right? So we teach that. That's what mental health first aid is. And I hesitate to say this, but I'm going to start back my one-on-ones. I stopped one-on-ones for a bit.
I think you should.
Yeah?
I think you should. I know you should.
You're like the third or fourth person that said that to me. So I stopped it for a while, for about a decade. because I was just focusing on my son when I'm moving to Alberta from Toronto.
Yeah.
But now I do better in groups, but I realize the one-on-ones is good. I like that.
Yeah.
I like it. So those are the two things that's coming down the pipeline. Body talks, I'm doing it now, like I have clients booked, but that's for my practicum.
Yeah.
When I'm licensed, then it'll be on the website. Mental health first aid, the 3 versions, you can do that. Organization health and wellness, which is psychological health and safety. We do that already for many, many years. So if you're looking for mental wellness, workshops, talks, things like that, you can contact us at sacredhealthwellness.ca.
I just want to emphasize that again, the first conversation I had with this very wise woman, I left with my mind not even on the higher level that I'm hoping to get at, but my thought process was improved.
Oh, wow.
My confidence, my consciousness, it made another notch up. And I know for a fact that, you know, you're going to do great things, man. You can change lives. Because your thoughts and your therapy, it's not superficial.
No.
You understand? It's not, it's truth.
Yeah.
It's not tied into the everyday, unfruitful conversations that we have. Yeah. Or some of us have with professionals that should be helping us. It's the reason why I asked you just now, do you think sometimes some therapists, they do more harm than good?
Yeah, because they're not doing the work.
They are not.
Yeah, they're doing the book work, but they're not doing the heart work.
There you go.
Yeah.
So where can listeners find you, follow you, support you?
Okay, Instagram. So Instagram is Sacred Health Wellness. That's our Instagram. You could email us at info@sacredhealthwellness.ca. Yeah. Our website, www.sacredhealthwellness.ca. I don't remember our link tree. I mean, but any one of those you'll see how to reach us. Email is probably good, or just check out the website. You can book a free consultation on the website. Yeah. 30-minute free. Usually within 15 minutes, I kind of identify the issue, but I give 30 minutes.
Just like you did with me. I'm confessing. I'm walking in my truth, and I'm being honest.
Oh, I love you. You're so good. You're so honest. Good. You know, because you know what? I see myself in you. Yeah. I don't see myself separate from you. Maybe there's a little bit more knowledge because of my experience. Yeah. So I would share that if led, and if with your permission, right? Yeah. Or with anyone's permission, but I'm not separate from you. I'm not better than you. I never thought like that as a little girl. Like, I was friends with the newcomers who didn't speak English. Yeah. You know, that was me. So, but yeah, anyone who feels that you're ready to explore what's holding you back, for wellness, I'm more about wellness and mental health, which is a whole different thing. Contact us.
Guys, gals, put it in the comment section. Do you want Miss Phoenix back on the show? Because I'm gonna walk in my truth one more time. Most of the questions that I have for her, I can't get into it. We don't have enough time.
Oh, wow.
So I'm cutting out a whole bunch of, I'm being honest. I'm cutting out a whole bunch of stuff here because I know she needs to refuel. And I don't want to, empty her on the show, right? Mm-hmm. Because I want her to recharge. Mm-hmm. So the next time you guys convince her to come back on the show, you can get more nuggets, be inspired, build your consciousness and improve your consciousness. But I need you to help me to get her back on the show. Put it in the comment section if you want her back on the show. Don't forget to like, subscribe. Mm-hmm. I feel like I'm going to the next level here.
Oh, you're there.
And this is because of your support too as well. My listeners, it's because of your support too as well. So thank you so much for all the likes, the subscribes, the comments. Yes. Whole works. You guys have been pouring in lots of love.
Oh, my cheeks hurt.
So if you want her back on the show, you have to help me out. Put it in the comment section. Make some noise for her because she's a wise woman.
Thank you. Namaste. Namaste.
And I appreciate you.
I appreciate you too.
Thank you for coming on the show. The show is called One Step. Let's talk about the journey. Let's take this journey together, man. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Ashe.
Let's do it.
Yes.
Thank you all. Anything you want to say, final wrap up before we go?
I'm complete. This filled my cup. Thank you for the opportunity.
You're welcome.
I see the God in you.
Thank you.
Which is the namaste. So thank you, everyone. And like, subscribe, follow, comment. All right.
We want those comments. You all have an amazing evening. Take care. Bye. Thank you, my friend.
Yes.